call the public hearing to order. Everything was noticed in the paper and for class 2 notice.
Yep.
The purpose of it will be to get information so that the board can decide what they want to
I
do
think that's what he's talking about.
with the,
Yeah.
as far as the fire district. So what I'd like to do is get this, we've got a committee was formed. They met a bunch of times.
8
times.
times.
So I want to get reports from the committee, begin with what you found, committee members.
Sure.
How do you guys want to do that?
Well, I guess they said I could speak, so I guess that's what we're gonna do. First of all, I'd like to introduce my committee. Mark Bruner was one of the committee members. Scott Morris was a committee member. Adam Blaskowski was a advisor only. Les Schaefer, chief from Elk Mound, sitting back there. He's chief over there, and he was an advisor. Dean Gullickson is where? Dean's in the back. He's county supervisor, and he was an advisor for us. He was also involved when Tilden and Eagle Point pulled out 20 years ago, so he's had a lot of knowledge in this situation, and he was a very good advisor. So that's just a second here. And we met 8 different times since the end of May. And in doing so, we checked every possible avenue we could think of. And we had the insurance guy come in, we talked to different insurance guys and everything else. And what I'm gonna do first here is I'm gonna read what the proposal is, and then I'll read what we covered. I'm gonna find the right minutes here, bear with me, I think I might even gave them away. Oh, let's give me those minutes.
My minutes?
Yeah, the ones I gave you. Right here, please.
These are mine.
I'll give them back.
I know.
These? Yeah, there you go, thanks, bud. Okay, some of the stuff, we made flow charts and discussed different things that we had to go over and cover. I talked to all the surrounding townships as far as backup, and nothing would change than what we got right now as far as mutual aid backup. They're all willing to support us. They said the only time it'll cost you anything, if we use like foam from their truck or something, we'd have to replace it. Same thing goes back. They're willing to come our way if we're willing to go theirs. If we use any equipment like that, they'd be willing to replace it. I did talk to Chris Bell originally in Eau Claire, and he was the fire chief there, about the EMS service. And then I dealt mainly with John Schultz. Is John here? I didn't.
John's not here yet. He'll be coming shortly.
Okay.
And I'm Chris Bell.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Chris, I never met you in person. Thank you. And I've been working with them as far as coverage in Eau Claire. And they had it on the town board of Eau Claire agenda to take it for the final decision there. And we have to make ours before they can make theirs. Chippewa Falls has moved up the ladder. It's gotten to the point where it's going in front of the town committee there too for approval, the final approval, if we want the coverage. And so that's where that lies. Let's see, what else? Some of the things we covered was and we want to stay positive. We don't want to be negative towards the district at all. We want to keep this on a positive attitude. What it is, we talked about, and we all agreed that EMS level of training, equipment, and services are pretty equal. Experience and response times, there's a little discrepancy there, but it pretty much was agreed that they're similar. It seems like we can get faster response times for, especially this end of Wheaton coming out of Eau Claire. In Chippewa Falls, right on top of the hill up there, Tropicana, just outside of Chippewa. Chippewa could cover that and be faster than the district. When we're all getting to be up in age, or older, I should say, 5-10 minutes can make a big difference. And so that's where we're waiting for Chippewa to get back to us, and Eau Claire is waiting for us. And so that was that. Amount of ambulances available. And the thing is, if everybody's out of ambulances, they call for mutual aid, or they're supposed to with surrounding ambulances. So, okay. Things we've gained: control over having our own fire department. If we get the EMS service, they would like to go, that the firemen think this is the time that we should go to our own fire department. One thing we'd gain is financial stability, control on financing, budget for fire department, budget for EMS would be kept with what they were budgeted. Firemen would have a say in the equipment they need for rural use. And where I'm coming from there is, I want to stay positive, but the last truck, the pumper that was bought for Wheaton is 2-3 years old, Adam, something like that. It's an unusable truck for rural use. It's made more for the city use, residential, like with hydrants and stuff like that. It's not, and the guys didn't have any say. It was just bought, and this is what you get. Town board would have more control over the situation. And then items that would need to be put in place if we did go. One of the things is first responder encouragement, because Eau Claire's got a first responder program that if we get the first responders out there, and so when they get there with the ambulance, the person's pretty much taken care of or is seen to until they get there, there's a $10 per first responder. Is that correct?
$10 per call.
Per call, okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. Thanks, Chris. And then the EmergiCare program, where, you know, there's other people around, and it basically could get somebody there to just see to them until somebody could show up, even if they aren't a first responder. Fire board and fire committee formed. We'd have to put together our own fire board, which is not a big deal. I think there's some people that sat on my committee would be very, very good to be on that board. I'd highly recommend them. Budget. It's hard to set a budget right now because until you get going. What was suggested was keep the same amount, which is $138,000 a year we're paying right now for just the fire coverage of it. Elk Mound, and Les will verify this, he even brought his books to prove it if we have any doubt. He operates on a budget of $75,000 a year for the city of Elk Mound. And he's got some pretty nice equipment over there. And it's because he filed for grants, got the grants, and bought this equipment. He made it count. He said there's hundreds of thousands of dollars out there that we can go after. If you start out with brand new equipment, you aren't going to get the grants. They're going to take care of the people with the older equipment. So if they can operate on 75,000 and they're a hair bigger than Wheaton and cover just a hair bigger area, we should be able to without any problem. The first couple of years, like I said, we might still have to put that 134,000 in there until we get some gear bought, some whatever is needed, and then that budget should be able to be reduced. The budget as far as EMS coverage is not, we're going to save a little bit from Eau Claire. It's going to cost us a little bit more, or about the same for Chippewa. So there's a little savings there. But in the long run, the fire district says right now it's supposed to be $23.55, I believe it is, a person. But they were budgeting for 27. They'd like to get that up to 30 or more in the next few years. So that's something that we had to look at. As far as cost-wise goes on EMS, and all our guys agreed to it, it isn't, even if it costs us $2 more a person, if we feel we get somewhat better coverage, it's worth it. But it isn't, it shouldn't be costing us any more. It should be actually less, and even less in a 5-year period of time than what it will be. So that's pretty much where we were and covered on that. Do you want me to read the recommendation to the town board?
Yeah.
No? Okay. And Scott Morris made a motion, and I actually seconded it. And after I seconded it, and we said, how are we gonna write this up? Mark Bruner and Eugene Gutsch, he was on the committee too. All 4 of us got involved in writing this, so it was what everybody wanted in here. And this is what it states. And it states, to recommend to the town board to negotiate for EMS services with the city of Eau Claire and the city of Chippewa Falls. And this will end our contractual agreement with this Chippewa Fire District and establish our own fire department. We took a roll call vote on that. Everybody voted yes. It was 4-0, and if we'd have had Andrew Wood there, he'd have voted also yes. So it would have been 5, but where he wasn't there, we didn't feel we could count his vote. So that was the recommendation from the committee to the board. And I know there's been a lot of, I guess I want to say, I don't know, I want to say threats, I want to say, how do I want to put that? Trying to deterrent people. And one of them was, oh, Jesus, if you go with Eau Claire, they're going to come, you have to come from the Oakwood Mall. No. And that's not true. And I'm sure Chris Bell can verify that. They'd come out of Station 9, and if it wasn't Station 9, it'd be Station 10 at State Street, or Woodman's would be the next ones out if 9 was out. And they do have backup crews. Basically, Oakwood Mall would be the last resort. Am I correct, Chris?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And you have, I believe it's 4 full-time crews, and if you get calls going, you actually shut down a squad and cover your backups ones, right?
We have 4 frontline ambulances. The one at Oakwood Mall is actually a cross-staff ambulance that staffs both the engine and the ambulance. Just goes on whichever call comes in first. The other 3 ambulances at Station 9, which is over here behind Menards. Station 10, which is over on Malden Avenue next to the FedEx building.
Mm-hmm.
And then Station 5 is down on State Street. Now, if we get to a point where those 4 primary ambulances are out on calls, and we need an additional ambulance, if we have the resources, we'll take an engine out of service and staff a reserve ambulance. We have 3 additional reserve ambulances, so total of 7.
Okay. And if your ambulance is out, then you go for mutual aid backup, correct?
Correct, and we may go to mutual aid even before we run out of all.
Okay.
Just,
Just depends on what the situation is.
yep.
Okay. And Chippewa does the same exact, pretty much thing. They got 2 full-time ambulances with a 3rd backup. So that's where the committee lied. We talked to the insurance guy from the township as far as what it would cost us for insurance to insure trucks and workman's comp and everything, and he was saying he felt it would be between probably between $5,000 and $8,000 is what it would cost for that. He said, not a problem, it's not something way out of line. We asked him about, well, everybody's saying, oh, your insurance is gonna go up, your insurance is gonna go up. And he says, no, not, he says it depends if the Insurance company uses the ISO rating, and not all of them use ISO rating. We checked with several different ones. What they do is they do have levels. They have levels from 1 to 10. Right now, we have a 5. Where it'll go, nobody knows until after the first year. Some insurance companies don't even use it. What they use is the mileage from the fire station. I have American Family, that's what they use. And there were several other of the committee members called, and people that weren't on the committee called and checked with their insurance, same thing. I think one person was told, yes, it probably would go up. And what we're being told, if it did go up, it might be $20, $40 a year on your insurance. But it is rated from the mileage from your fire station to your house. Okay? So that should clarify those two scare tactics, I guess is what I was trying to present before, to kind of scare people away, which is, like I said, we want to keep this a positive thing. And we all agreed we want to do what's best for all the residents of the township of Wheaton, not just a couple. Hi, how are you, Chris? Or John?
Can you sign in there? Sure.
This is John Schultz. He's Assistant Chief out of Eau Claire. He is, I've been working with him, outstanding person to work with. So, I'm going to ask my committee members right now if they have anything, or my advisory committee, if they'd like to make any comments at this point. Mark Bruner, any comments?
It was not an easy decision. There was a lot of things we had to work through. A lot of fact finding, a lot of paperwork to go through, a lot of thought. It was not a quick decision. It was a lot of hard work.
I bet it was. And there was a lot of discussion about it.
There was.
Sometimes we thought we were just going in a circle and coming back, but it was stuff that had to be talked out and worked out. Okay, how about Scott Morris?
My name is Scott Morris. I was asked by the township chair to be on this committee as a citizen volunteer. All of us were volunteers to be on this committee. We benefited by having the advice from Adam Blaskowski and Dean Alex and Les Schaefer. And I don't want to repeat everything that Wayne said, but there is a few points that I'll probably revise with people. First of all, we met 8 times. Every one of these meetings was open to the public. Public was invited to every meeting. We didn't have a lot of attendance at that. And it's impossible for us to recite here tonight the discussion that took place at all 8 meetings. Some of it got quite involved, well into the late into the evening. But our collective decision was based on what we felt was best for residents of the town of Wheaton and for the future of the town of Wheaton. Not necessarily what's best for the fire district, but what's best for our taxpayers. One of the things I learned is that we have an extremely dedicated volunteer fire department. And those firefighters are going to remain the same. There's going to be no change. There'll be no change. Our firefighters will go out and fight the same fires and provide that dedicated service. It'll be no different than what it is right now. We already own the fire station. The township owns the fire station. We have a dedicated chief, very competent, and we have a competent command staff, and like I said, very dedicated firefighters. We felt that there'd be improved recruitment of firefighters. And that recruitment would be local control of the hiring and the training of these personnel. Right now, if someone wants to be a volunteer fire department employee with the town of Wheaton, we don't have that final say. That final say is made by the chief over in the fire more city-like. It was still more of a rural type setting. It was felt that the SOPs would benefit if we had local control over that. We also have local control through the town board over our budget and the expenditures. We would determine what the budget is, how the money would be spent, and have a direct representation for town Wheaton taxpayers. To a person, all volunteer firefighters, personnel that attend our meetings, and we had quite a few of them over the course of 8 meetings, were supportive of this move to have our own independent fire department. Wayne mentioned that he contacted personally the area fire departments for mutual aid and received a warm welcome and assurances that we would have an excellent working relationship with those area fire departments for mutual aid if the need existed. He mentioned we'd have local control over equipment purchases. Some of the frustration that I heard from the fire department personnel is the latest new truck that they use is they don't even take out unless they have to. They have an 1896 truck that they primarily use because it's more set up for rural firefighting. The newer truck, we did not have final say of that. And this is something that is very important to firefighters, and I think it should be very important to the taxpayers, and that is our control over our tax dollars determining what type of equipment do we have. Now, I'm not going to get into all the budget issues, but we do have budget resources in place right now. Wayne mentioned that we're spending about $138,000. We have the potential for numerous grants that we can apply for that would come directly to the town of Wheaton, not the fire district, but that would be in addition to the money that we have budgeted for this right now. We also have contractual language in our agreement with the fire district that's either in terms of equipment or money for the next 5 years. We have a set amount. I can't remember. I know it's in excess of 100,000. I heard several figures mentioned with that. There would be, what's that?
It's 176.
176,000?
121.
Well, we heard 4, 5, or 6 numbers. But we know,
Yeah, we've seen it on different paper too.
we know that it's in excess of $100,000. We also learned that we have an abundance, there's an abundance of Wayne fire equipment available from all over the country for our purchase. And we just scratched the surface on that. There'll be startup costs. But we were pretty confident that our town board should have cost-effective resources to pay for them. Most of the items are in place right now, like our building, our personnel, our chief, command staff. A number of us would be willing to volunteer for that transition in helping secure financial resources. EMS service. I believe that it was speak for myself, but I also believe it was a collective thought from the volunteer members that the change in the EMS service providers to the old fire department, Chippewa Falls Fire Department, would be equal to or greater service for town Wheaton residents. One of the positives on that is if we sign a contract with them, we would know the exact cost over the next 5 to 8 years, depending on the contract length, or what those costs would be. Now, there was a growing concern amongst the committee members about the budget openings in the district regarding EMS. We were not able to put a solid number. We put one number at $32,000.
Last year alone.
Last year, it was a budget shortfall. We've heard figures provided to us all the way up to $160,000 in shortages. That's very concerning to a small township like ours. Contracting with Chippewa and O'Clair, we're going to know exactly statutory responsibility and the responsibility of this town board is to provide emergency medical services for town of Wheaton residents. Now, the hospitals are different transportation, because it's not cost effective. The local providers will do it, but it's not cost effective either. One reason is they can't compete with a government entity that's supported by taxpayers. But the district has chosen to do that, and that's their business. That was concerning to us. We heard discussion that we were concerned about the potential for the fire district to combine the fire and the EMS budget, result in additional costs for county residents. We are only one of 5 townships or entities that can vote for that budget, so we don't have control of that.
Mitch.
We only have 6% of the EMS calls, the emergency calls, am I correct, Nick?
That's correct. That's what we had last year.
Of all the ambulance calls within the fire district, we only have 6%. Now, I heard about the 13.6% all the way up to 17% of our share is in the fire district budget, which includes EMS, right?
That's correct.
Okay, well, we're getting 6% of the calls. I think one of the local firefighters said it best. He said that, wanted to remind us that we're a local, rural area. And Helen and Lafayette, we felt that has outgrown us while we've been in the world. I think that statement should be in the minds of everybody. I fully support changing to our own locally controlled fire department, contracting for our own EMS. And as I stated, it's impossible for us to reiterate all our discussions at all 8 meetings. We covered a significant amount of material. And by sheer time, we don't have time to go through line by line every item that we talk about. And our discussions got heated at times. But in the end, our decision and recommendation was based on what we felt as citizen volunteers to be in the best interest now and in the future for the county taxpayers.
Thank you, Scott. Did Eugene come in yet? I didn't see him. Andrew isn't here yet. Adam, you got any comments? Les, would you like to make any comments? Les is the chief from Elk Mound. That was the advisor.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me over. It was a pleasure to work with these guys on the committee. I think Scott did an excellent job reiterating everything we talked about. From my perspective, based on what I see, I think you guys have a very good opportunity to move forward with your own fire department. I think you could quite easily run your new department with the monies that Wayne had mentioned earlier. As he stated, you have a very dedicated and wonderful staff of firefighters. Adam is a great chief, would make a great chief, and I'm sure that the firemen would be just as dedicated as they are now to your district. I am more than happy to continue to be involved in helping make any kind of transition. As I have mentioned to Wayne in the past, I've been with Elk Mound now for 23 years, and I've been the chief for almost 14. And when I started, John Nyhart, which I'm sure most of you have heard the name or know who he is, he helped me greatly, and I just would be happy to return the favor. So.
Thank you, Les.
I got a question for you, Les. So you're at Elk Mound, what area are, how many square miles, I mean, what are you?
78 square miles. 3
Yeah.
townships, or 2 townships and 1 village.
And you got a population of how much?
Usually around 4,200,
4,200.
Les has also offered to help write for these grants, show the guys how to write and what to rate and which grants to apply for, which we greatly appreciate that, Les.
Okay, you're running that, this is running about 75,000.
Yeah, 75,000 is my current operating budget. And that includes personnel costs, and that's everything, that's insurance, personnel, vehicle maintenance, building maintenance, lights, heat, you know, the whole 9 yards.
Okay,
Dean Gullickson, would you have anything to say? Dean was also advisor.
Clear my voice because it doesn't carry very well, I guess I got called into this hot box because I went through this process once before. I chaired the Tilden Fire and Ambulance Committee. And we were part of the Chippewa Fire Protection District. And we were faced pretty much with almost the same situation as occurred here. My advice to the committee was to do what was in the best interest of the citizens of the town of Wheaton. Statutorily, I want them all to know that statutorily, the town is required to provide the ambulance and fire service for this township. You've been doing that with a contract with a corporation called Chippewa Fire Protection District. That 4-year history is a 4-year history. What was on the table for these people is, this is 2019. It's not 4 years ago. A business model 4 years ago typically doesn't work today. So they looked at it and they did that. And I was pretty proud of this place because it got a little sparky in there a few times. But to get all the issues, what's important? The firefighters you have, the EMS people you have, what's their feeling? They're the people who right now are carrying the torch. And your goal as a town should be to allow them to carry that torch, what's in the best interest for the people of this town. And I believe they did that well. I asked them to use a weighted matrix. They used the weighted matrix for those who are into that kind of thing, where you sit down and pull out all the different issues and then which is first, second, third, fourth. They did that. And I also told them, you will make your decisions, and it won't be that difficult at the end if you follow that process. Now, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I learned tonight that it was a 4-0 vote. That process works.
It did.
As I sat and I listened, there were a lot of issues that came forward. I guess I've been blessed to have a big career. I started in Milwaukee, the biggest area as far as population. It was up in Sawyer County. And Sawyer County, a 25-30-minute response time was pretty good. We had no other options up there. We had no other fire departments nearby that we could contract with. And when I heard the responses from these first responders, EMS people, talking about driving an ambulance from Lafayette way over to the western edge of this county. And having experienced myself, the first responder who was killed in Sawyer County, trying to do that, but they had no options. You have options, and your committee looked at those options. And as a result of that, some of these people that are here tonight are here basically saying, yeah, let's take a look at these options. Let's get these response times down. Not only for the people who are the victims, but for the people who are responding. You don't want them driving 100 miles an hour, 30 miles. You know, somebody can drive 10 miles and get there, drive it. So these are the issues that you try to put together in a way to make it. And they did that. They took 8 meetings. And I can tell you it wasn't very predictable. But in the end, we weighed all these issues. This is the decision they came up with. We did the same thing until we had a lot of anxiety about what happens from here on. our experience until now is we just stayed with the fire department if we could have contracted there, and that's what we wouldn't allow that opportunity. And when you have to proceed through this committee process, I don't believe that opportunity was offered to come lead. So it's basically in the same spot we were. So what happened with Tilden was we experienced a surge in volunteers. We actually increased our number of firemen, first responders. How shall I say it? It's called ownership. If you knew that we were going on our own and we needed people to step up to the plate, then we did. I can't tell you that that's going to happen here. I can only tell you what happened there. I think that was mentioned about ownership. This is Wheaton's fire department and EMS system. That means a lot to people who live in the rural area. The money, yes. You have grant opportunities now where you're the applicant. And those funds will be coming to you, not to a corporate entity that's going to scale them up a dollar here, a dollar there, based on a percentage, which always leaves you on the short end of the stick. So, I think you did an extremely good job. Pretty well. You have a good committee. Your fire department, key personnel, your EMS staff are top shape. Whatever your decision, I'll give you the same advice I did with you. Do the best thing for the people to come and lead. Remember, even if it costs $2 more, if you're laying out there crushed in a car, and you're waiting for that ambulance, you pay that $5 more a year. You have that responsibility for the people of Wheaton, but not only that, but the motorizing people who come through your town. You have options. That's huge. You have options. Willard, Colfax, Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls. You have options to get people there quicker. And in the end, that's what's important. For those who are the first responders, they know how important it is to have someone there. I can speak from my field experience. The person who had a gunshot wound through the chest. It's called a sucking chest wound. And that's people that go together, plug the hole, and put that lung down to try to keep the good lung full. You want to count seconds? Those seconds see my hours as you wait for that ambulance. The only thing that's going to save that person is that surgery. The ambulance starts stitching up. So every second.
Thank you, Dean. The last, Andrew Wood just came in. He was on the committee. He is one of the local firefighters. I wanted one on there. And Andrew did accept to go on there. So what we've been doing, I spoke first and just said what we covered, and Mark spoke and Scott spoke. Everybody's kind of gave their opinion of what happened in our meetings. If you want to add to it, Andrew, you're more than happy to.
I'm not sure what's been covered, so I'm honestly add to it.
A lot of it.
Somehow
But go ahead.
For some reason, I thought the meeting was at 7, which is my bad. But anyways,
I mean, from what I heard from the meetings, and we did. We had a great committee of people. You know, everybody was very thoughtful and gave good input and good points to think over and all that kind of stuff. So I think we definitely did cover our bases about as well as we could. Granted, we didn't have as much time as we all maybe would have liked to, you know, go a little deeper. But with the time we had, I think we all did a very good job at getting the points, discussing the points, and stuff like that. Not sure really what else I'm supposed to say. But.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, we did have 8 meetings in a matter since May 29th was our first one. So in a 3-month period of time, we met 8 times, folks. And all these people did it. They didn't get paid. They came. They were very dedicated. Didn't complain about the meetings. They always came. And I do appreciate your help on it. You guys did. It was a pleasure working with you guys. I guess that's about what we got to say, unless Eugene comes in, wants to add.
you know,
He had to work until at least 6, and he said he'd get here as soon as he could. That's,
so anybody else got any? Yes,
You're talking about residents?
yeah, yeah,
I do.
okay,
One of the things that you covered was all our insurance would go up if we have a new apartment. And I looked into this. It says with a new department, all property would go to an insurance rating of 10, which is called uninsurable, until rated. Any property further than 5 road miles from current station would also have an insurance rating of 10, uninsurable, which means a very high premium. Obviously, when you establish your department, those ratings will get better. But someone stated $40, and you take $40 over all of the property in this town of Wheaton, you are talking about a major tax increase. We might want to call it a tax increase, but we're being taxed an extra $40, or maybe more according to my insurance guy. Now, that was kind of glossed over, and I'm not sure that it should have been glossed over, because we are not going to be rated in this township with a high rating.
I'll make a comment when you're done.
Pardon me?
I'll make a comment when you're done, I'll let you finish.
You can make a
Go ahead.
comment now, if you want to.
go ahead.
I-
No, or go
No,
ahead.
finish, I want you to
Go ahead.
finish.
I'm looking at our current fire district, we have 100 volunteers, 9 for 2 part-time ENFs. Our new Wheaton fire station currently, according to what I would know, has 14 volunteer firemen. So that's the, I guess that's the universe we're gonna be drawing from going forward. Chippewa Fire District has all kinds of equipment. Now, I looked at the equipment that we have here, and this adds up to over $1 million. Now, we're talking about getting $121,000 back from the Fire Protection District. You tell me where we are gonna get the rest of the money for that equipment. Now, I've heard people say in the past, oh, we're gonna buy used equipment. Well, you know what? That equipment has to meet standards. If it doesn't meet standards, you can't use it. You can repair it, you put it up to standard, but that is not something I think we want to do. EMS ambulance response, I guess you did talk about that. We have crews from Lake Alley, Lafayette, Lake Alley Station. We are going to look at getting a crew from Eau Claire. Is that what we're talking about?
They would be coming out of Eau Claire
That's where EMS is gonna come from.
in Chippewa Falls.
One of the things you mentioned was the per capita that we're going to be probably raised up a couple bucks. Now, according to what I see here, it says we'll probably have to pay an extra money for non-resident base surcharge. Is that right?
John, you want to comment on that?
Yep.
I would say that $200.
The non-resident fee is $200 more than what the resident fee is.
Okay, well, we didn't talk about that. Plus, there's an annual contract for a Wheaton First Responders Medical Director. Do we have one of those hired? Or will we hire one? No, nobody's got a response to that?
Why would,
This is a hearing, this is a hearing.
Okay, so.
That's what we're trying to
so
get
these are the
information,
things
we're
we need to
gathering
look at.
information.
These are the things we need to look at that obviously we have to look at, so that's what we need to look at. Okay. Fire apparatus replacement costs. Right now, it's included in our current tax levy of 17%. We get to get this equipment, replacement, maintenance, repairs, insurance, fuel, etc. If we do this, we have to pay 100%. We're gonna be buying all of it. Fire equipment costs. Including our current levy of 17%, we get $3,000 per firefighter per year, pager, mask, etc. When we go to our department, we have 100% of this turnout fuel that we have to buy. 100%.
You know that.
Mutual aid cost for fire calls. No charge on mutual aid is need for any instance currently, for current agreements. Now, according to what I see here, the current fire
district will charge a user fee based on current approved rates by the fire board. And the numbers I've included here, it's $500 for each engine ladder truck. It's $500 an hour. $250 an hour for each tender brush truck squad. $150 an hour for each ambulance. And a personnel hour based on a pay rate of about $500. We are aware of that, right?
Oh, definitely, that,
Those are all
I just wanna make a
those are
comment
all
to
the
that.
things we don't have a budget for yet, but they need to be put in the budget if we're going to.
What goes around comes around. If they charge us, we charge them the same thing. They call for mutual aid for us
That's fine.
at that same rate.
Okay.
So think about that. Everybody else will respond as mutual at no cost.
Okay, what about miscellaneous costs such as payroll, legal, workman's comp, liability, insurance, training, the medical director, which we talked about? It's right now included in our 17%. Now we're gonna take care of it 100%. So we gotta assign somebody to do all this, correct?
I already made a comment as far as workman's comp, that would be the insurance, and workman's comp would be between $5,000 and $8,000 is what we were told
Somebody has
by
to
our,
do this.
we've
Med-
covered that.
Medical director is, if it's contracted with the cities, then the
That's
medical
right.
director the medical director is that service. That's
What
what the
about
medical,
other than
the city would have a medical director.
Is our clerk gonna do that then?
Pardon?
Yes.
Clerk's gonna do that. Good, good.
And as far as,
Is that correct, Chris? You have the medical director, John?
We provide medical direction for the city of Oak Cliff Drive.
Right.
John can speak to medical direction for the first responders.
If the first responders, if they're at the EMT basic level, they have the option to credential with us under our license and to act as EMT basics. Wheaton, I would recommend that Wheaton also licenses their first responders as an EMS license here too, which would require medical direction. But you can talk to the hospitals about that. I know the hospitals right now are providing that free of charge to the smaller volunteer services. To have the medical
And we have registered EMS responders.
How many?
What do we have? Right,
Medical?
yeah. EMR. But, yeah, I mean, that's stuff that's, legitimate question, that's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah, and another part here, we talked about what we're gonna get back from the fire protection district, and they gave us options, and we must be aware of the 3 options. they
yes,
gave us. What are those options?
they can, once the amount is agreed upon, or if it isn't what we agree on, we'll ask for an assessor to come in and assess it. Okay, they can pay it in one lump sum after a year we withdraw, or they can pay it over a 5-year period of time at 20% per year, or they can pay it out in equipment.
Okay.
And I'm gonna respond to one other thing you brought up about the $3,000 per guy. That's true. It is about, for top gear, $3,000 per guy for gear. That's gotta be replaced every 10 years. That comes out of the fire budget.
I have
That was already considered,
That's,
or we covered
yeah,
it.
the thing, Herb, that you're missing on that part, it's 17% of everybody in the fire district, that's what we're paying. Not 17% of just the week, we're paying 17% of everybody's, which we have 17% of the firefighters, so we're paying
a lot more.
all of it now.
Many others are paying more than 17%.
Well, they got
Well, yeah, but I mean,
it goes
we're
by
paying-
population.
Yeah, they've got a lot more firefighters, so they've got more equipment, more gear, so they're paying more money, and the amount we're paying, that is correct. It's about 3,000.
I got to know, when you say this 17%, is that 17% for
These are
the per capita for the township compared to the other townships?
No.
It's
Of the budget, of the
Of the
budget.
of the total budget.
Yeah, but now, is that for the population? Cause I realize the town of Wheaton's smaller than Village of Hallie or,
It go, by your yeah, it is, by your
Equalized
population
value.
is where your
It's
value is.
not by population, it's equalized value.
Or, yeah.
It's by equalized, the amount of equalized value, it's a percentage of equalized value, so,
Well, that's why I'm trying to
So it-
clarify.
ours actually has gone down this year. Compared to Halley and Lafayette, ours actually dropped. So that part of it would, actually did go down a little bit, because our equalized value went up a little, but theirs went up way more. So our percentage is just a little bit lower now. I think that Howard happened to Howard too, I think Howard went down.
We're at
just a-
7%.
Yeah, I think you guys dropped just a little bit.
I'm gonna
but
make-
anyway.
I'm gonna make a comment to the, one other thing that you brought up about $1 million worth of equipment sitting in our fire station. Out of that 6 pieces of equipment sitting in our fire station, 3 of them are over 20 years old. If you could get 50,000 for all 3 of them, you'd be lucky.
Okay, so what are we gonna buy?
There's equipment out there, used equipment, you don't buy new, you buy used, you file for grants, like I mentioned when I spoke, and that's how you do it.
And that has to be inspected and make sure that it's up to code, because.
That's right.
I've talked to people saying that if it doesn't, you've got to replace it, or it has to be fixed to their standards.
That's correct.
And if you're buying a $50,000 piece of equipment and want new for $500, I can guarantee you it doesn't qualify.
I'll give you an example. There's 2 pieces, Dean Gullickson told me about 2 pieces of fire equipment that's sitting just below Duran that just went on the lot down there that a fire department upgraded their equipment that's for sale. He didn't stop and look at the price. My brother lives up the cities. It's a volunteer fire department, in Oakdale. And he called me about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and he says, does your fire department need any trucks? And I said, no, not that I'm aware. Why? He says, we got a truck that's 12 years old. It's got 15,000 miles on it. It's like brand new. He said, but they upgrade their equipment every 12 to 15 years. And he said, they're asking $7,500 for it, and they can't sell it. And there's actual lots, auction lots, that's got this equipment on there, Herb.
Okay.
I had a comment about, the fire truck that, we say we got, it's mostly, used in the city and not in the rural area. I was at these fire board meetings, and when we purchased equipment, we had input into what kind of equipment we thought we should have. And if we bought that equipment, that is our fault.
Did you ask the volunteer firemen what they needed for equipment?
Well, we had.
That'd have been my first
There
choice.
was a committee that,
There were volunteer fire department.
But
Volunteer
that's-
from their fire department.
not gonna, yeah, that's not gonna make any
And
difference.
another point here is, how are we gonna do our EMS training? We don't have qualified people to do that.
They do that right in Eau Claire.
How much should we pay for that?
Isn't a lot of that state,
John.
Yes, John.
yeah, John? How's that? They're willing to help train 2 of them, with the understanding. John,
You'll have to
comment.
take You'll have to take a refresher class every 2 years. Actually, the state's one every 3 years now on refresher at whatever level you're at. The tech school offers the training of that, and I can't tell you what the cost is for sure on it. If you would request training with us, yes, we would come up and do training with you.
So we have no idea, all these things I talked about, we have no idea where that fits in the budget, how much our budget's gonna be. We could be way over what we are willing to pay for these services. We have no idea, none, what it is, based on the stuff that I just covered, and we were hemming and hawing, and
No,
who's gonna do, who's gonna do it.
That's fine.
the thing that, the measuring stick that I see right now is Elk Mound has 4,200 people compared to our 2,800, and they got 78 square miles compared to whatever our square miles is. I don't know right off.
52 sections, so it'd be 52 square miles.
But,
Should be.
and they're running a volunteer fire department at $75,000 a year. That's including all of the stuff that you're talking about. Now, it takes a while to get there. It takes a little bit to get there because there are upfront stuff that you have to do. So, as far as the budgets go, I guess the only way of knowing is to do it. That's what this here hearing is it worth doing it? You know, is it worth going for this? That's what the idea of this is to, and, you know, I understand what points you're making. I'm not arguing that, but I think that the committee has discussed a bunch of that type of thing, you know, as far as the costs of equipment and things, so as far as I know, I didn't go to the committee meetings specifically because I wanted that committee to just, whatever they came up with, that's, you know, I have nothing to say about any of it, so, being that I'm on the fire department too, I wanted to be stay out of it.
Pardon me?
It might have been helpful if you maybe came to a couple of those, few of those questions could have been answered then.
Yeah, but I'm asking it now. You guys said.
You were-
I-
you were
I-
asked to s-
We're gonna discuss
all
that,
eight
so.
meetings I could say on to, but then I would have need for all eight to answer all the questions. And it appears it wouldn't make any difference because I haven't gotten the answer yet.
Go
You,
ahead.
you were asked to sit on that
Oh, I
committee,
just
Herb, and
answered
said no.
equipment.
I would make one point, these are the same kind of questions that we asked Tilden, when Tilden has almost
Say
1,000
that
less
again,
people
because
than
I
Wheaton,
come in the committee.
Mhm.
smaller
Say it
tax
again.
base, and I've never seen the taxes go up because of the fact it's going down. These are all what I call the jitters. You've got a year to put things in place, but the bottom line is, Tilden can do it.
So I have a question.
So,
So if we find out our budget doubles instead of what we think it's gonna do, what do we do then? Beg back to get into the fire protection district?
It won't double. I'm sure it won't.
But you don't have all the numbers just yet, even though these got, there have been some fire departments that have left the districts, what was it, Stanley, the state shut them down? Who was it?
No.
So there are times where there are, I mean, this is all great, and it all sounds really good, the committee, thank you. I stand in the up and down that must be taken, being residents of Wheaton, and I'm looking at both sides of this.
Okay, let's see,
I'm not done yet.
go ahead, go ahead. Just get,
One of the things you covered here, well, I guess this was not covered, but Chippewa Fire District currently provides the town of Wheaton with fire inspection and fire prevention activities as outlined in state statutes, after the districts. These services are completed by staff with skilled and trained full-time and part-time firefighter, EMT, part-time deputy chief, full-time fire chief. The mission is to provide fire safety at the highest level through inspections, so that you and anyone that visits a business down in Wheaton are safe. The decision was made to leave, but those services would now have to be complete by someone else to ensure the town of Wheaton is compliant with state statutes. This would be an additional cost to the taxpayer or increased burdens on volunteer firefighters to complete these required activities. Is this something that we budgeted or discussed?
I'll address that real quick. I agree 100% with your point, and it is in fact the case. We contract with Chippewa Fire District for $1,500 a year out of our $75,000 operating budget to do our fire inspections for us. My wife, who is a member of the volunteer fire department, is the fire prevention coordinator. He takes care of all the fire prevention coordination activities at the high school, at the middle school, at the elementary school, and thereby we fulfill our duties to that extent.
Thank you, Les.
go ahead, Bob.
I'd like to comment on that specific item because this is a pretty hot topic for me about the fire inspections. With all due respect to Mr. Steinman said, it's something I would not worry about. And the reason is because I'm currently working with two people in two different townships, one here and one in another one, where fire safety inspection resulted in a erroneously crafted letter to actually raise a building when the fire inspector had absolutely no authority to do that. He's not a licensed architect and he's not a licensed engineer. And frankly, they were doing something way outside the bounds. In another case that I'm working with, another client, they're being very, very, in my opinion, misleading with factual information and how they're going about moving through the system. And I think it's unfair to the taxpaying public and the residents in the town that I have to go in and watch these people spend money with attorneys and on people like me, which I have better things to this will work through the courts, but I know the one in Lafayette that I worked with, that one was categorically, outside of this fire inspector's jurisdiction. So my point, I guess, where I was going is, just contract for it, be done with it.
Well, that's what we're talking about, aren't we?
We are, but currently, you're talking about having it within the district, because we're here and we're with it right now, and I'm saying, at least
No,
if you
what I'm saying is,
at least
the
if you
district-
contract,
It's part of the cost.
yes.
What I'm saying is.
I don't think you're getting great service now, or,
I never said that they would have to do it, I said currently they're doing it. I'm saying that we will have to do it.
Correct.
Not with them, but
Correct.
contract it if we have
but
to.
you're still paying for it now.
Well, we're gonna pay for it,
Correct.
I'm just
Okay.
saying, I don't.
Go ahead.
I haven't
Next
heard it
point.
covered.
Move on.
Next point.
I haven't heard it covered. The final thing I had here is, the Chippewa Fire District ambulance responders are dispatched as all 9 and 11 calls go to the Chippewa County Dispatch Center, as I understand it, from the town of Wheaton. The town of Wheaton goes to the city of Eau Claire for ambulance service. The calls received at the Chippewa County Dispatch Center will have to be relayed or transferred to the Eau Claire County Dispatch Center, which could delay ambulance response to medical emergencies within the township. Are we aware of that?
Yeah.
John, would you like to cover that? What usually, how fast that happens? It's a matter of
Can't give you
a
an exact, but it's.
minute or two.
It's fairly quick. Right now, we're contracting with Dunn County, town of Springbrook and town of Rock Creek, and those calls actually go to Dunn County, Dunn County Dispatch, and they transfer it to Eau Claire, and I have not heard of any instances where the ambulance has been delayed.
Was it 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes?
I don't know for sure what it
I
is.
think that's something we need to know.
Less what is, because you're getting dispatch from,
Is that, I'm sorry, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the east, the east side of, Springbrook, so the east side of Highway 815, dispatch through Dunn County, but relayed through Eau Claire County for Eau Claire Fire.
Scott Moore said.
and then Menominee,
Menominee takes care of the west side of 8.
so it's actually more
Convoluted
than this.
It
And
moves.
I don't know what the answer to that is exactly, but
Scott, go ahead. You had something to say too.
Transferring calls in law enforcement and EMS services is common practice. Remember this, that the percentage of people that only have cell phones now has just grown enormously over the last 5 to 10 years. And there'll be many instances, especially when you get in the outlying areas, that you might be in Chippewa County, that call might go to Eau Claire, your call might go to Dunn County.
If you call 911 west of 20th Street, there's a good chance it's going to Dunn County.
That's
Very good
exactly right.
chance.
Dunn or Eau Claire. So these types of transfers take place all the time between the counties, the fire departments, the state patrol, and these transfers are handled very expediently. But with the cell phones especially, that's not unusual transfer calls. And that happens virtually every day.
It's happening right now with the service we have, so.
okay, let's move on. Is that it, or that's all?
Just one more comment, that would be it. The most of the people I've talked to believe more time is needed for their residents to review any supposed benefits of making this change. And by looking around here tonight, I'm right in my belief that the majority of the people here are friends of individuals and relatives of many of the board members, and they would be the majority of those attending tonight. And I suspect that the communication to you would be in a positive format that we should change. Now, Alice has already committed to made up her mind on this. She put that right in the newspaper. That she already made up her mind, and I can guarantee I'll make a bet what that vote is.
Alice sat in
Oh,
a few of our
I'll
meetings.
talk, wait.
Okay.
I read the pin record.
I get to respond to that.
Okay, quiet out here.
And I've been to dozens of planning committee meetings and town board meetings, and Wayne Miller has never, I repeat, never voted contrary to Alice Russell.
Okay, let's move on.
That's
This
not
has
true.
got
Oh,
nothing to do
oh,
with
I
what we're
get to,
talking
I
about.
get to respond.
We're talking about the fire department.
That means we already
Okay, go
got
ahead.
3 votes, we
Go ahead.
already got 3 votes.
Go ahead.
That's not true.
I have been to almost every single one of those research committee meetings. I have been to the fire board meetings every month for months now. I have been to all the town board meetings where we have talked about what we may do about leaving the fire district. I have based my decision on every single fact that I've heard in about 17 meetings. I base my opinions. I never base my decision on anybody else's opinion, nor do I ever base it on scare tactics. I always say, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's go.
but wait, and I just feel that I'm making my vote, and I do know what it is. And it's for the betterment of the Wheaton Township, and it's going to be a good vote for the people and the residents in this township. And Wayne and I do not always vote alike.
Let's move on. Okay. This is about that's good, or, come on, let's move on. Let's let other people
The
talk.
last sentence is, we need a referendum to get the repeal.
Okay,
I know
this
how
is-
to do this.
This is a town board decision. That's the way this government is set up. And it is a town board decision. This is not, does not go to referendum. There's no format where a referendum is
We can have an
appropriate.
advisory referendum anytime we want.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, next.
Loopy.
Back up. When we first started talking about this, over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was misled and lied to by a couple of people on a fire district right now. The deputy chief told me that my insurance would go up because there would be a fire station close up, because there was a fire station far away. I talked to my insurance agents, they told me that the fact that the Chippewa fire station is closer than usually, my insurance would go down. Now, in Wheaton here, our major populations are just outside of Chippewa and just outside of Eau Claire. So most of the residents will be closer to a fire station. And anybody that's farther out in Wheaton is still closer to the Wheaton station than they are the one in Lafayette or in Alley. So that's the one point made. The other one was, Dave Stavers had the fire district, stated to the news years ago that if Wheaton leaves the fire district, we have an empty fire station. That's a patent lie. We own 17% of all the equipment. We own also 70% of the debt. We also own 70% of all the equipment, so we would not have an empty fire station. And that was a scare tactic by them to scare the people in Wheaton of not getting out of this fire district. Now, Herb talks about all these expenses we're gonna have. I'd rather have 100% of all our controllable expenses than 17% of our controllable expenses with Lafayette and Hallie. Just the lawsuits alone that have gone between those two has cost this township money. And I think, listening to what's happening in Elk Mound, we could save all of ourselves some money. And I think, talking about it's gonna double is ridiculous. We're already looking at examples around us where it's actually gone down. And I don't think it's gonna go any higher than it is because we can control, I just talking to Mark and other people on the fire station, we can control our own expenses at this point. Instead of right now, the fire district is gonna rent again, what they said, $176,000 for this fiscal year. And we're liable for 17% of that. So I think this is obviously the best move, and I wanna thank everybody that's on this committee for doing all the hard work that they did.
Thank you. Proposed EMS budget for the district in 2019 was $397,087. Proposed budget for 2020, they want to raise it to just under 414,000. That's a $17,000 increase in EMS alone.
With 16,000 people, that's about $1 a person or something, is what.
4%.
Go ahead, Nick.
I came in late, but, I was just wondering if each comments to 5 minutes per person, and
Okay.
then we get around to everybody, and if somebody has additional, then we could start off, otherwise it might get, because I'm sure,
Okay, okay. Let's go. Anybody else? Who else got a comment? Go ahead, Joe.
Can I just clarify?
Yep.
I just want to clarify one of the points that I made. Came up about the $200 non-resident fee. That's on the ambulance bill. That's not direct to the township. That's on the ambulance bill. It's on a user fee. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, go ahead. Who had a comment, please?
My name's Taylor Coyle. I'm actually a firefighter paramedic with the city of Eau Claire. I've been there for about 5.5 years. Prior to that, I was a volunteer for 5.5 years, so I understand both sides of it. My concern is that we made this initially an EMS argument, it's become a fire argument. I understand the Chippewa Fire District employs the whole, which is why we're considering this. My concern is that I'm not questioning the dedication of volunteers and firefighters, but I'm not willing to trade 15 firefighters or 100 firefighters like the district has for 15 right now. Mountain fires are burning pretty fast. I know my wife's stuck inside the building any longer, she has to be. And I fear that even with the 15 firefighters we have and the national challenge of recruiting and retaining volunteer firefighters, it's gonna be pretty difficult that nobody here can predict, considering that we have 100 firefighters within the service of the contract. So that's my big concern.
Okay.
Can one of the volunteer firemen make a comment to that effect of what we get for response from the district when they have a fire? Of how many firefighters come out of that 100?
Well, I'll say something, I've been told that the town of Wheaton has more volunteer firefighters at any response. At any response, it doesn't matter if it's here in the town of Wheaton, or the village, Hallie, or Lafayette, or Howard, than the own township that comes to, that's what I've been told. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've been told.
I don't know about that, but I know
That's a question that you gotta,
But I realize-
town of Tilden has it, they went through this too, same thing, it's one of those things you gotta decide on when you make the final decision. You know, is that, how important is that? How scary?
It's a shortage of volunteers. It's not just here, it's nationally.
Right.
I think to say we only have 17 firefighters is dishonest. We're looking at fully staffed stations in Eau Claire and Chippewa where you run from and Elk Mountain. It's not 17 firefighters. It's several hundred when you add all those firefighters in.
Anybody else?
I was at one of the committee meetings, again, I wanna thank you guys for all the hard work you did for you that day. Like you had mentioned too, again, we're talking about response times, I don't have the facts in front of us, but what I'm doing today, the reason I came today was to get all the numbers. We don't have those thoughts. Is there a reason that the town board has to vote on this now? Can it be
Yeah.
something where everything is kind of put into place, because again, response times can be slow. I'm a resident, but I'm also married to a paramedic on the fire district for Chippewa, and I find it hard to believe that Eau Claire can guarantee that they're gonna respond to every call faster. We talked about that at a community meeting, there could be a time, if they come from State Street, and it is really snowy and everything else, that we could have a problem with that.
This, it's been, we gotta get something done because the Chippewa Fire District wants an answer before October 1st.
And I get that, but if you chose to stay this October 1st, can you give them that notification next October 1st, or?
And stay around for another year, yes, that's certainly possible. You can, it is possible to do that.
Because it's, I mean, he brought up
Yeah,
some really good points.
I guess I'm, okay, yeah, that's fine.
They did present us with a sheet with response times from different stations. They did from Hallie and Lafayette Station compared to some of the Eau Claire stations. And anything this end of the township, Eau Claire is fast run by far. Within, well, here, 7318 County Trunk T, which is a mile up the road, right? Fire Station 1 is, they got down here a 14-minute response. Coming out of Eau Claire Station 9 is a 10-minute response. Okay?
That's the Menards Fire Department Station 9?
Yes. Okay, what's the station on State Street, is it? Station 5? Okay, Station 5 for that same response is 17 minutes compared to 14, but if it's got to come out of Station 3, which is Lafayette, they got a 20-minute response, so Eau Claire is still 3 minutes faster if they're using the secondary station compared to the district. It's a roll of the dice, is what it is.
Go ahead.
I can say from a perspective of being a plow driver, that response times were really slow for everybody last winter. There's no process was to be the same or better than where we are now.
That's right.
Go ahead. Anybody else?
No.
Got anything? Any facts you wanna bring in? And some of the stuff we need to, we're gonna have to take a look at. There's, I mean, this is a huge decision. We've been working on this for well over a year. Actually, Herb knows, we talked about this 2 years ago. It was started, what is going on? Can we get control of all of this? What's happening? And so this is not a snap decision at all. It's, I think I talked to Chris well over a year ago, just to see, because the board had started discussing what are we doing with these budgets, and how is this budget of the fire district going, and is there a way of handling it more efficiently? And I know you were one of the first ones I had contacted to, is there, because all you had to do is say, no, there's no possibility, and I was, I'm out, that's good, but, so it was and what we've been trying to do is get these facts together. This board, that committee that was were people that, Andrew was on the fire department, and that's because they wanted somebody from the fire department. So Andrew was on there, but the rest of the board members, the committee members, are people that had nothing to do with the fire department. Basically, we didn't know how it even was organized. When you guys walked in back in May, didn't know what the organization even was. So it's been a learning process, and that's specifically why it was done that way, so that this is from the view of people that had to learn it from the very beginning. There are certainly questions. I got, this is as scary as all get out, no doubt about it.
minutes?
It's,
Unless you're still using it.
there's a lot of anxiety in this, absolutely. Dean brought that up, the town of Tilden went through an awful lot of anxiety over their decision at the time, so, and it still is for me. I've been with the fire district a long time now, and, I've enjoyed my time the entire time there, so it's not like this is a flippant. For me, it's really important. It's really important that this gets thoroughly. I think that committee did a really good job. As far as I can tell, the committee's done a really good job with it, so.
I think every one of my committee members will tell you that every meeting, I reminded them, not only once, probably twice or more, to please keep an open mind and don't make any decisions until the end. And I think they did a very good job doing that. And they looked at all the results. And what it came down to, like Gene said, it'll work its way out at the end, and it did. The question that wasn't when we began is should we get out, or why should we get out, and at the end was why should we stay? And that was the feeling of everybody because of the research we did and what we came up with.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
One last thing, I think we were talking about this becoming an EMS issue, but clearly it's a fire issue. I'd be interested to know what the turnout times of the local fire departments are around, such as Elktown or Colfax. Their average response time that it would take to get typically in most areas of the Wheaton Township area. Having those 100, for lack of better numbers, from fire district versus how many numbers we find from Elktown in the middle of the day, from Colfax in the middle of the day. Those numbers are not hard to predict, they're impossible to predict. Again,
That's one of the
discrediting the dedication of volunteer firefighters. I really do appreciate everything they do. I just need to know how many people are going to go show up at my house on fire
That's why I checked with all the departments as far as mutual aid goes, to make sure that they would be there. But right now, they use the district for mutual aid, for whatever people do respond. If they think they need the response or the manpower, they call, say, we need Union, we need Tilden, we need Elk Mound. All of them are willing to respond. Just like Elk Mound here, 6 weeks ago, had the fire with the cars on it. They were short-handed. They called for mutual aid. Wheaton was over there. Wheaton, I believe, put it out or was part of putting it out. I know there was a call for a fire that was in Chippewa. This is what I understand. Last Saturday, during Memorial Day weekend, with a house with a $50,000 damage to it. Chippewa Falls called for mutual aid for Station 1 Halley. Never responded. It's a throw of the dice, folks.
Are you saying this mutual aid will actually gonna have more resources and more firefighters to draw from, like Chippewa?
We'll have the same thing. These people told me.
Plus, we have those other cities to draw from with mutual aid.
Right. And they said we'll have the same backing as you have right now with the district. All you do is sign a new agreement. Adam.
I gotta correct you on that, Wayne. They called for the truck, which is a ladder, from Station 1 with 4 personnel. And no one responded. They retoned and requested again. 3 personnel responded on that truck.
Oh, they did.
And then the ambulance, I believe, went, but they did not. They said, send all other calls to Eau Claire because we don't have any backups today. So we didn't have ambulance available at that point.
Thank you for correcting me.
The district also has provided the committee with a response sheet of how many firemen respond to calls in Wheaton. Wheaton typically has 4 to 7, 8, 9 people on all calls in Wheaton. And from the rest of the district, we're getting 3 or 4 from the other 3 stations. So, I agree. I call Elk Mound, I call Township, I call Tilden, I call Colfax. I think I'm getting more than 3 people.
Yep, no, I understand how
So,
the mutual aid system works.
It's just, we're not getting the turnout from the fire district we should be getting.
Sure.
That's one of the things the committee did look at. That's definitely, I mean, everything Herb brought up, the committee has reviewed and looked at every one of those issues. So.
Got anything from Howard?
Do I have any?
We're gonna keep going.
Actually,
I'm just trying to figure out how to take the dog. The way you guys have done this, I've been to a couple of meetings.
Yep.
Rubbers and, that's the only reason I'm.
how did you think we conducted our meeting?
Who I went to, very well. You want me to respond?
We actually had more response out of Howard Township people than we did out of our own. Be it truthful.
Yeah. So what's that? Yeah, yeah. Packers are playing.
I think there's a ball game going on here somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have our town meeting will be Tuesday at 7 o'clock, right here. Is when we'll have the board meeting and board will do the discussions.
This is going to be some future agenda, is that next meeting? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
yeah, it'll be on Tuesday, that's when the next meeting is. That's why this was put in at this point, so that we have time to get it to the next meeting. I'm gonna be gone for a couple of weeks in September, and by that time it's October. That's why we started this back in May, so that we could have this finished by the first meeting of, that's what that's what the committee had as their directive to begin with, is finish it up, either say yay, nay, or we can't make any decision, which is a decision too, but that's what the committee was entrusted with, and that's what they did, and so that's what they did. Knowing that that was the time frame, set. So that's,
I don't,
It's a very large decision tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned it, Chippewa Falls is, gonna meet with their city council, between this last Tuesday, the 3rd, and the 12th, and give us their final decision. Eau Claire, I was in conference call with Chris and John yesterday, and they were supposed to do it on their agenda tonight, but they can't take it until we say, yes, we're going, or not, and then it'll go on the city council for approval there. And that's on the 24th, if I remember it.
Yeah, I'll just clarify that. So our city council won't take it for consideration. It's not an automatic approval. So I only make a recommendation.
Right.
Right.
You have to make your decisions first. Whatever
Right.
the decision is, if it says yes, that's what we wanna do. I'll be in front of city council. I'll speak to it favorably, but council makes their own decision.
Okay. Sounds fair, and I gave everybody, they sent me a
Town board does too.
proposed contract, and I gave one to each one of the board members here to look over, so they have one. Okay? You sure can.
Did you contact Colfax at all, or EMS, or weren't they?
Yes, as far as a backup for an ambulance, in case we ever did need it for some reason at that end, and they said yes, they'd be more than willing for mutual aid to come in and back it. They said that's what we're in business for, we cover each other, and they said, we'd do it for Howard too.
But Colfax was never, they were only.
Oh, as far as the fire department, yes, they said that they would, if we really needed it that heavy, that they would come down.
As far as the ambulance, or the primary, I guess that's.
As primaries, no, not as primaries, because of the distance they are, and even what it'd take them to get into this western end of our township, our faster times are gonna be Eau Claire and Chippewa.
Just clarification.
Right. You bet.
I just have a couple questions, sir. Is it kind of the understanding that Eau Claire is gonna be the primary one to be pursuing at this point?
Eau Claire would cover 2/3 of our township. From County Trunk F, up County Trunk F, from Eau Claire up to County Trunk N. And then they would cover also where 80th Street is, just that 1.5 or 2 miles. That little jog too, and then Chippewa would be that third of the township. This 2/3 of the township would be Eau Claire covering it.
Chippewa Falls City, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And that would be because of the response time and the distance.
Yep. And
That way, everybody would get faster service.
And the gentleman up here was just saying that Colfax would be a secondary. Who would you consider being a mutual aid backup, I'm assuming?
Well,
Right.
if there was a catastrophe, yes, we could call them, and they would come.
If, say, Eau Claire was busy and couldn't send a rig, would Chippewa Falls be a primary for the whole town of Wheaton? I ask because I'd rather have that paramedic level service on both ends. Not to diss anything from Colfax, but I want to maintain that paramedic level of care.
Okay, I'm sure, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. If
We'll
they
have
can't
to-
respond,
that'll be worked out.
they are gonna call for backup.
Sure.
They'll be doing the call, correct? Chris and John? You guys call for that.
But I'll let John speak to that specifically.
Yeah, we would, probably, if it was up here, we would have them dispatch the city of Chippewa as the closest one.
So we could still call Hallie for, and do mutual aid with them even for our fire district, could we not?
Oh, yeah.
So then
For
we're at the same service level we were before.
In their little pamphlet that they send us, they said, well, you'd be billed so much per truck, so much per man. Well,
That's fine.
that's fine. What goes around comes around, we'd be billing them back. The other ones wouldn't be doing that. It's basically, I think, a scare tactic to get. If they wanna charge us, fine. We charge them if we go that way too.
They can't bill us any more than they bill anybody else.
Right.
I'll just speak to that quickly. We're calling, it's about establishing mutual aid and maintaining a good working relationship with everybody. Obviously, I think fire district wants to maintain a good working relationship with the city of Eau Claire just as much as we want to maintain it with them. So,
Yep.
Thank you, Chris
And Wheaton
and John.
wants to go in that other direction too, so.
We wanna leave on a positive note, folks. We really do. We don't want no hard feelings. We want, if we get out, they need help, we wanna be able to respond and help the district too. There's no hard feelings here. We don't want it that way. We want it positive.
Okay, anything else? If not, Need a motion to adjourn the hearing?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I got my green and gold on.
Aye.
Aye.